Okay, so hello everybody. I don't know where we're gonna end up putting this, so this intro might not make it in. But so
we just finished recording the Britney segment.
We just finished recording the Britney divorce, Sam, all that segment, yeah.
So now we figured we might as well record another topic that we've been discussing.
Yeah, because the first episode of like whatever this is, we talked about Michael Oher. I'm saying his name wrong, but it's hard to say Oher. It doesn't feel correct. I don't know. I'll try, but who knows. So we talked about him. But when we recorded, we had not yet seen that the Tuohy family's attorneys had responded. So they kind of filled in the blanks of a lot of the questions that we had. What were some of the standouts from that for you?
For me, one of the biggest things, two of the bigger things was, with every conservatorship, it's what human rights were taken away or what human autonomy was taken away from people. And then how are they being cared for, I think would be the second thing. And the third thing is, what were the financial implications? I always felt and I assumed that he negotiated his own NFL contracts because he didn't really bring all that up. So I felt like the majority of his contracts and money and everything was a huge issue. But then the second thing was, you want to be part of the podcast? There you go.
Yeah, she's like, wait, y'all started recording without me?
So
she's like, oh, they're talking about Michael Oher again. I got to get out there.
Yeah, she's got to make her appearance. So the money aspect is always the biggest one. So I always thought that his NFL contracts were done.
What do you mean the biggest one?
Like one of the biggest, in Michael Oher's case, we know he was free. We know he was able to go play football and live out his life, have kids. So majority of the issues didn't seem to be really affecting him that in other conservatorships become a thing.
Yeah.
Again, in my opinion, just looking from the outside in. But one of the bigger things for me always was the movie, the book, and the money from it, whatever happened with that.
Yeah.
And the lawyers came out and basically said, hey, all the money that came in was split 5 ways. It was, each family member basically got it, but now we know Michael wasn't a family member.
Right.
He was a conservative, but they said it was split 5 ways. They got it, that Michael didn't want the money. It was put in a trust for his kids. So that kind of took the money question away. But the one big question still that is left is, why was the conservatorship needed? They keep on saying it was needed for school.
And they make these vague references to the family.
The only way, given the NCAA rules at the time back in 2005, that he could sign with Ole Miss is he became, according to the NCAA, as part of the family.
And they're like, he had to be part of the family. And it's like, first of all, it's almost like they're using it like capital F family. Like, it's almost like there's an undercurrent of like, if you know what it means, you know, and if you don't, you don't.
In order to get that done, they had to make him, as I say, part of the family. That's the route they chose. You had a very short period of time.
And I think that is true because there's these NCAA rules. And we should rewatch The Blind Side someday soon. But I went back yesterday and read the plot summary on Wikipedia from The Blind Side, and I was reminded, because I'd completely forgotten this, but I was reminded that even in the movie, some NCAA regulatory authority of some sort is interviewing the Tuohy family members and also interviews Mike in the movie, Michael. And in the movie, there's an investigation going on into what these NCAA rules and all that. And in the movie, actually, they don't adopt him. They become his legal guardians. But there's this whole scene where Leanne Tuohy confronts, in the movie, Denise Oher, who's Michael's birth mother in real life. But the character in the movie is also Denise Oher. And and Leanne goes and confronts her and basically like has this heart-to-heart of like, let us take the guardianship over your son. But now knowing what I know, which is Michael changed his name to Michael Oher the same year. Oher's his mom's last name. His last name was Williams, his father's last name. His dad dies, and he changes his name to his mom's last name in the same year, and he's put in a conservatorship that year, or agrees or consents to go into the conservatorship. But in the movie, apparently they do focus, at least somewhat, on this question of NCAA regulations and this family rule. And in the movie, Michael, he confronts Leanne about their motivations for helping him. In the movie, I'd forgotten that part. And then they convince Michael that they weren't in it for the wrong reasons in the movie. And then at the end of the movie, he tells or at some point near the end, he tells the NCAA recruiter, I want to go to Ole Miss because that's where my family goes.
But all the questions you asked were about why everybody else wanted me to go to Ole Miss.
Why do you want to go to Ole Miss?
Because it's where my family goes to school. It's where they've always gone to school.
Come to find out, Sean Toohey had played basketball at Ole Miss, plus he was a booster. Leanne Toohey had been a cheerleader at Ole Miss, and Sean and Leanne hired a tutor to get Michael's grades good enough. This is like real life apparently, to get Michael's grades good enough so that he would be eligible to play in college. Guess where that tutor went to school? Ole Miss, and she was a cheerleader. So there's 3 athletes from Ole Miss all working to basically prepare, some might say prepare, some have said groom, Michael into basically going to Ole Miss. And then whenever asked why he wants to go to Ole Miss, his answer, convincingly, is that's where my family goes. But I had to piece all that together because that lawyer press conference did not say that.
Yeah, no, again, that lawyer is going to basically make it look good for the family. But it did clear up some of the stuff. And again, it still, we'll find out as time goes on what's really true and what really happened. Even with everything the lawyer said, the final issue I still have with the Toohey family
Why
is...
didn't they adopt him?
One, why didn't they adopt him? And second, there's that episode of Below Deck. There's that episode of Below Deck where I saw a clip from where it basically Sean says, oh, I told them that I'll give him the rights to the likeness and everything, but I get to review the script. That he gets to review the final script, or he gets to review
From Below Deck?
No. On the Below Deck episode, he talks about how for Blindside, the movie, he said he would give up likeness, rights, and everything. And I don't know if Michael gave him up, or for Michael, or he gave him up. But basically, he told the movie people, I'll let you make the movie, but I want to see the script and I want to be looking at the script.
Final edit on the script.
Final edit, or close to final edit, or approve it, or in some way. And that's where my question comes. Why did they make Michael look... Again, it's his success story, but it wasn't to highlight Michael. It was to highlight themselves. It was to show how great of humans they are, how perfect they are. It didn't portray Michael in a perfect light. It portrayed him actually in a pretty bad light.
It portrayed him as someone who needs protection.
And they portrayed that. And the second thing is they portrayed it like he was a completely lost cause before they came into a picture. He wasn't. That's not true.
Is Michael Oher's brother also a professional athlete?
I do not know.
Someone commented that, and I kept meaning to Google it yesterday, but someone said, well, wait a minute. Michael Oher's older brother was already playing football when he was in high school. Like, there was a chance he could have played football even without these two. I didn't fact check
No,
that.
but again, what about the portrayal like this?
Oh, I was talking to someone yesterday. I think it's propaganda in a way. It's a very specific perspective of the story. And like you're saying, it makes the family look really good. And it makes him look like very talented and, capable in some ways. But like without them, he would basically be nothing. And that's how the movie portrayed it.
And he made the first 16 years of his life. And he talks about it every day. He had to get up and make sure that he didn't fall into the traps. He didn't become what everyone around him was, into drugs, into violence and everything. And how hard he had to fight. And the movie gives him no credit for that. And I would hope if it's my family, if it's my adopted parents or people that say that are my family, wouldn't let me be portrayed like that.
And they also portrayed his mom in a certain perspective too, because they made it seem like Leanne Toohey had to go and tell her what's what, and they made the mom kind of seem like bad and like horrible and abusive for some things that were really just like her circumstances. And now that I'm hearing, yeah, apparently they said they got the final edit on the script, or they got to contribute to what ultimately was in the script. It does call into question what their motivations were from the very beginning, because it sounds like they were being, because okay, so this is what I said yesterday. Conspiracy theory time. Okay, just a conspiracy theory, just for fun, casual conspiracy theory. It seems like this movie kind of put out the narrative once and for all for a while of like, this is what happened, because even, you know, the lawyers said that there was 2 other schools that he was being recruited by or like courted by or whatever. LSU and another, I think Tennessee. Both good schools, same caliber, same quality football and all that.
So you think LSU and Ole Miss are the same caliber football?
Over the course of history, yeah. I mean, they're both in the SEC. Like LSU obviously superior, but that's my bias because I went there. Go Tigers, Tiger bait. But my first cousins, my dad's brother's kids, they went to Ole Miss. So, I mean, but the football program is what I'm talking about.
That's what I was talking about, the football program.
And, well, yeah, but, you know, there's like, in the South, there's big rivalries between, it's almost like religious. Like, people take it real serious, like what their school is. You know,
That's why I was asking what you thought.
And so, yeah, y'all, funny story. First time I ever went to Prem's apartment. Was it the first time?
Yeah, it was the first time.
Years ago. This was years ago. The first time, like, we had been on dates and stuff, but the first time I ever, you know, saw his apartment where he lived and stuff, he had gotten it for a sample. Like, it was for a free sample from work, but there was this football, you know those pad folios you put your, like, resume and stuff in or whatever? Like, you know, those nice, like, things. There was one that had, like, football material. It was made out of football material. And the sticker on the front of it was A for Alabama. That, you know, that A. And I know some of y'all are from Alabama. I know y'all are going to say Roll Tide, but y'all, I can't. I'm so sorry. No, ma'am. Tiger bait. I said, this was years ago again. I said, why do you have that? Why do you have that? I stood up. I said, I got to go. I got to leave. I can't do it. No, we're not going to be doing no house divided flags. No, ma'am. We're not doing it. And then eventually, like, Prem, like, threw it away or whatever. I'll tell y'all the full story of that one day. But yes, they take it real serious. But anyway, so back to these lawyers. They're talking about these schools that Michael was being recruited to: Ole Miss, LSU, and Tennessee is what he said, which made me have a flashback to the movie, which we should watch again. But there's a scene in the movie where he goes to LSU to get recruited, and there's like these girls there that are very clearly like sent as, like, you know, honeypot, you know, like sweeten the deal type of recruiting girls, cheerleaders, whatever. And there's like a scene that happens in a locker room where somebody does something to him in an inappropriate way. I don't exactly remember. This is like 10 years ago I saw this movie or whatever. But it's like, even that, like, they put in the movie, why didn't he want to go to LSU? He had a bad experience over there. Why didn't he want to go to Tennessee? You know what I mean? Like, they eliminate the other options, almost like a whole fairy tale being presented out in front of us as to why he chose Ole Miss, to give us some reasons other than they violated NCAA regulations and Sean Toohey should not have been having that inappropriate relationship with that student athlete. That's kind of what it now is starting to look like conspiracy theory could have actually happened. They had that book deal lined up so fast. They had the movie, and then they had the rights to negotiate. It wasn't like he had the rights to negotiate. And now if they're now coming out and saying, oh, but we let him know and he had final approval. Yeah, maybe out of your graciousness, but it wasn't legal final approval because you had that.
Yeah, no, that's where the biggest thing always goes back to me. And a lot of people have been arguing like, oh, they're worth 100 million, 200 million, whatever the dollar amount is. But they did financially gain. It's not even about the dollars. It's not about the money.
Right.
They went from being a family in the South
who owned some fast food chain,
who owned some or bunch of fast food restaurants or other restaurants, to
these philanthropists,
these phenomenal, great people that took care of this kid and made it possible. It gave them this whole platform off
for
of Michael.
me, it made a huge difference that they adopted him.
Yeah, no.
That's putting your money where your mouth is. When you adopt someone legally, that is something.
Yep. No, and that's where, again, I also don't want to fully take it away from them.
Yeah, they helped
because
him, I'm sure.
they did help him. Now
They
what
got
was
him tutors. He needed a tutor to get his grades up, apparently. There was stuff
whatever
they
the
did.
motivation was, now that's into question. But the final product of it is they did help him. At what was the detriment to that? And did they always keep him first, or was it them at the same playing field, or was it them ahead of him and he was secondary? Those are all the questions that are left. But I do think there is some credit to be given to the fact that they did help him in his journey. Now, what was their motivation? We don't know.
I mean, I did see a couple comments. I know Nola Lola was one of them, I think. Actually, no, I shouldn't say I know. I think I remember her being one. But there was a few different people who left some version of the comment of, okay, so this lawyer said, Sean just sold his business for $220 million. Is it possible? I know you don't really like to do the speculating, but I do. Is it possible that the way that Michael found out he wasn't legally a family member is because when that company sold, it became obvious to him that he was not going to be an inheritor, like an heir. And isn't that what you do when you adopt someone? You do make them your heir. I remember learning about it in family law. There's some states where you can't write out an adopted kid from your will because people do that. They adopt these kids for whatever reason, and then whenever it's time for them to pass on an inheritance, only their blood kids will get inherited. Some states, I don't know, I didn't look up Tennessee, but some states I remember learning in family law, they have specific provisions like you have to have cause to remove an adopted child from your will.
And maybe that's why they didn't adopt them. They always knew they were going to have money and they were going to leave it, and they didn't want to. That's all speculating, but that could be a possibility. And that's where I would say, just from someone looking from the outside in, I would say, yeah, did they give him? He was their kid. He was their son. And they were so proud of it. They put it out at every single website.
And their foundation, adopted parents of Michael Oher.
So if they were the adopted parents, or even if they weren't, did they give him a cut of that? If they wanted to drive...
And people saying that that's like greedy or something, like, no, I can't agree with them. If my inheritance is like bad cortisol levels. Okay, so we're not going to be fighting over no inheritance. We got like one double wide that's 35 years old, and that's what we could fight over, I guess. But whenever there's a lot of money at play, which is what we've learned from these conservatorships in general, which it doesn't fit the same way in this particular case, but people do start fighting over stuff. And it ain't just money. Sometimes it's like grandma's cabinet that she kept her dishes in or whatever. Sometimes it's not even monetary. But, okay, in the world where my parents had $200 million and my two other siblings got money from that and I didn't, that would be shocking to me. I would be upset by that because it would be being not treated like equally.
And especially when they portray to the world and their reputation or their image in the world is, they are my parents. They adopted me. They made me a family member.
And they're still going on Below Deck talking about it.
Yeah.
They're still talking about it. Rabbit from Down the Rabbit Hole News, she pulled up a picture of their website for either their foundation or their company or something. And it says this huge quote at the bottom. It's like, when someone comes into your life, like Michael came into our life, you start to realize that the giver gets so much more out of it than the person you're given to. Like, that's their quote on their website. Like, they're still doing that. Meanwhile, like, not treating him like their kid. That is what it is for me too. It's like, yeah, fine. Maybe there was a movie in 2006, and maybe they kind of had to, put it together to make sure that they didn't get in trouble with the NCAA or whatever. But we're like 15 years later down the road now, and they're still saying that they're his parents. And why didn't he change? That's another question. If he thought he was getting adopted, why he didn't change his last name to Tui?
Again, there could be a lot of valid reasons. He could have wanted to continue his mom's name, family name.
Then he shouldn't have been getting adopted. Adoption means you don't have a parent.
Well,
that you want to be proud of or whatever.
I don't think a name makes, personally, in my opinion, the name doesn't make a relationship. A relationship is made from how you're treated, how everything is.
But he did change his name from Williams to something that same year.
Again, I can see a place where someone might want to keep a certain name and might not want. I
can see a place where they would want to keep it too. He didn't keep his name, he changed it.
But he kept his mom's name. It wasn't like he just went out and made a random name.
It was his mom's, yeah.
It did come from his family, and maybe, there could be a lot of reasons why you would keep the name. For me, it's not the name as much. It's more the treatment and the portrayal of him.
The treatment and portrayal.
Right.
Simultaneous.
And again, did they have to legally adopt him? No. But they did get a conservatorship.
And they did say they legally adopted. That's the thing. They've been saying they adopted him.
Yeah, they've been saying that they adopted him when they never did. So, and that's where the whole issue is. And even in our first episode, I said, worry about the money later. Worry about everything after. The first thing is why? Why did they say they adopted him while they just only had a conservatorship over him?
And one more thing, I mean, we can talk about many more things, but one thing I do want to still cover is a few people here and there have said things like, not in my comments, but just in my researching, the case, looking it up. Some people are saying things like, he's just mad because he's broke and he's not, he doesn't have the football money coming in anymore. And so he's just mad because he's broke and he's trying to, like a stand up, God, I can't remember the word. But yeah, basically he's mad because he's broke or whatever. And it's like, okay, but if my parents were multi-millionaires and I assumed that I was their kid, because that's what they tell the whole world and that's what they told me, and they told me that I was their kid, their child, their daughter, their son, whatever. He can't be mad? What if he is broke? Wouldn't that make you mad? If all of a sudden you start realizing these people have been lying to you, now you don't have the rights for your name and your likeness. You don't have the rights to renegotiate for that movie. You did, even if he did voluntarily give up the money for The Blind Side, I can't blame him for that because he already said he doesn't like that movie. So I can understand taking the moral position of, I'm not making money and deriving, because that's passively agreeing with it. And then all of a sudden you realize all this talk for the last 17, however many years about I'm part of the family, I'm your brother, I'm your son, I'm your whatever, was not true. What was the reason? I don't think there's anything wrong with him getting mad. Even if he is broke, which I would need to see proof.
I don't think he's broke. I think that's just people running with it. And again, we'll find out as things go on. But it's just another sad story. And it is hard, even from the parents' perspective. We don't know what their motivations were, but they did help him, in some ways, and probably did make it easier in certain ways. So it's just another tough situation. We'll have to wait and see how everything ends up.
I do think there's more to the story. Even after these lawyers have come out and talked, I would like to know.
From both sides.
From his side, from Michael's side as well. Because they did say in 2011, he wrote a book wherein he acknowledged in his 2011 book he was in illegal conservatorship. So it was not adoption. And that was 12 years ago that book came out.
That was the other big thing. But again, we got to go back and look what was in the book. And then also the wording. You brought it up. The wording doesn't say he came aware that he was in a conservatorship.
It does not say that.
The wording says he came aware that
it didn't afford him a familial relationship.
Yeah, so he wasn't adopted. It was not what he thought it was. He thought the conservatorship was adoption, but it wasn't adoption. And that's where maybe that...
even that he doesn't actually say. He thought it was adoption, or the court filing says, or equivalent to adoption. I don't think he ever thought he was adopted. I think he thought conservatorship was another way to become someone's family member. I think that's what he thought, because that's what he said he thought. So even when he was saying, oh, it's a conservatorship, Because as we know, I mean, even Steve-O the failed clown has no idea what a conservatorship or a guardianship. People don't know, especially 15 years ago, really did not know. I think he thought it made him like a family member, legally family member. And it says it wasn't until February 2023. And actually now I'm wondering, when did Sean Toohey sell his business? Was it February 2023?
No, they said he had been mad and angry and upset over the last few years.
But I'm just trying to reconcile
what
maybe this February 2023 revelation was.
Maybe, again...
Or maybe he's lying. Who knows?
The speculation you brought up before of someone of the parent selling the business and having money come in, and that's maybe he realized he wasn't part of... There could be so many things that none of us will really know unless one of the parties... Like, Michael comes out and says it, or the family comes out and says it, and at that point, if they don't agree, who has the proof?
Yeah.
It'll just to be wait and see, but... There is a lot more still out there from both sides that we have to find out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it can be same way like, oh, I'm on this team, that team, or this person's right. But the two big questions I have is, why didn't they legally adopt him? Mm-hmm. Why did they get the conservatorship that goes to that? And then why did they let the movie portray him the way the movie portrayed him when they came out looking so good from the movie?
And that was one thing I said in my live. When you think about it, who's the real star of the movie from an actor perspective? Sandra Bullock. It's her movie. With her Spanx and her accent and her hair and her Michael. And, I mean, she did a great job too. I'm not even saying actors just take the script and read the script. I'm sure she didn't do a forensic investigation into these people. But she's the star. She's the star of the movie. You know who plays the dad in the movie? Tim McGraw. So the people who had the negotiate, they didn't want some up and coming listen, the guy who played Michael, his name escapes me right now. He did a fantastic job. He's a great actor too. I mean, I bawled my eyes out watching the movie. I loved it. But now that I'm really thinking about it, Tim McGraw and Sandra Bullock are who's playing the parents. It kind of is a little bit of a giveaway right there, what really maybe went on.
Yep. No, and those are the questions I have. Because the money, who got the money, where the money went, that'll be all sorted out. But those two first fundamental basic questions, the big ones are, why did that happen? Mm-hmm. And I think only the Tooheys can really answer that. And Michael,
the Tooheys, 20th Century Fox.
Yep.
So that's all I really had on this topic for now.
Yep. Do you have another question?
Oh, since we're sitting in the same recording, let's see if I can think of. Do you remember seeing any good questions from the comments? I just remember the hair routine one being like, a lot of people were like, what's the hair routine?
I've seen comments about staying calm and relaxed and all that.
Oh yeah, that you're so calm compared to me.
Yeah. But
does that come naturally? You're just a calm person?
I think it's naturally just the personalities we have, but I do think a lot of my meditation and yoga practices probably play into that. Mm-hmm. I always wasn't this calm or this relaxed as I am now, but my yoga, my meditation has made a huge difference in the way I go about my everyday life and how peaceful it is.
How long have you been doing that? Like yoga and meditation that has impacted your life in a positive way?
It started off with doing Wim Hof breathing, breath work. That was like a year and a half ago now, roughly. So that's when I started, and then I've been doing a bunch of different type of breath work and everything else like that. So a year and a half to 2 years is when it started. But I really started getting into the flow of doing different types of meditations, learning about meditation, yoga, and actually reading texts and trying to learn from the original sources, going and meeting teachers who are from have lineage going back into hundreds and thousands of years now.
So who did you meet? You want to talk about that, or should that be a secret?
Uh, I think that can be a whole episode on itself. My journey
leave
into
below
this
if you want to know about Prem's yoga lineage.
spiritual journey process, I guess, would be.
So for somebody who, because I have gotten this question before, people have asked me like, what breathing thing? How do I start? I don't know where to start. I guess two routes. If somebody just wants to jump in and start practicing, what would you recommend they look at first? Ground floor, they don't know. And if somebody wants to start learning from more of academic, intellectual level, what would you recommend? Just like basic, they don't know nothing about nothing, ground floor. So while you're thinking about it, I'll say for me, if you want to start practicing, the easiest is Wim Hof. I would say just practice it laying down, sitting down, not in a pool, not driving. Because I think when you start to feel those feelings of like the tingles and sometimes you have these breakthroughs or whatever, it sparks something in you that you now know what you should go look for and seek out. And it kind of puts you on a path. If you want to just start learning from like an academic standpoint, I would say it depends what you want to learn. But I think good places to start are these like autobiography of a yogi is a really good one, just to kind of get your feet wet and be like, this is what they do in the Himalayas. Or like, I mean, people read like the 4 Agreements. That's a great one. People could start there. I guess that's what I'm asking. Like if the people just want to try it out, is there a YouTube video? Is there a person you would suggest?
I'll have to look at that because I've learned so much from so many different sources and I'm so deep into studying this. I have to really sit there and look at and think about, where someone should start. But definitely before I really got into it, I tried to meditate and I would sit there and I would be like, yes, I'm meditating. But I didn't know what meditation was. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for someone to describe to you what meditation is. Mm-hmm. The first time I really...
And there's like different meditation.
Yeah, there's a lot of different meditation. Just meditating, right? What does everyone think of when they're meditating? It's someone sitting in a lotus position and just sitting there. That is really difficult to do. And now you're going on the internal...
And they're telling you stuff that feels impossible, like, don't think any thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm going to. So... You think, and then it's sad, well, if a thought comes, just let it go and just sit there. So it's really hard to know what that feeling is. That calmness in your brain, that mental, just being calm and relaxed. And I think the first time I ever really experienced that was doing the Wim Hof breath work. Once I did Wim Hof breath work, I met Wim, and, he was talking about how he studied Indian text. He studied from, the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali. He really studied from, that culture. That's when I was like, oh, wow, and I started reading more and more, and I started realizing, oh, Wim Hof is just a way that comes from, these original texts, the original stuff. And that's where I started going way deeper.
And he's open about that.
He's very open.
Like a lot of the criticism I've seen about Wim Hof is like, he's stealing or he's not giving credit where it's due and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's not true because he doesn't talk for very long without telling you exactly where he got it from. Like if you ask him, where did you learn this? He will tell you, I went all over the world and I learned it. He'll tell you exactly where he got certain breathing techniques from. And he'll say, this one's from, this sutra and this one's from this thing.
Yeah, no.
Also, the Wim Hof method is a very small amount of what Wim Hof, the person, actually does.
Yeah, no, and to me, there is, and we can have a whole episode on...
We should have a whole episode on this.
On our friend Z.
Oh my God.
That'll be a whole episode. But to people that say, oh, Wim Hof is copying or taking from other cultures and stuff, I personally, and I don't think people should talk for... I can't talk for all Indian people, and I think it's wrong to talk for a whole entire group of people. I think we do that a lot. But from my perspective, I would say I am thankful. I am so happy that Wim Hof was there, that he took something, packaged it in a way where I was open to doing it.
Like
I come
accessible.
from, it was accessible. I come from an Indian background. I was born in India. I should have naturally gravitated towards the original Indian text where a lot of this information came from, but I did not. I was running away from my culture at one point. I was running away from that, and I would say I wouldn't say never, but I don't know how long it would have taken me to get to the point where I would have ended up at these texts and learning as much as I've learned.
All roads lead to the texts.
But
though.
But Wim Hof made it possible. Wim Hof
Yeah.
was my ignition. It started me off into this journey. And so I will always be thankful for Wim taking the methods, the breath work from all different cultures, all different stuff, bringing it mainstream, showing people what it is. And then from there, some people only do Wim Hof and it's phenomenal for them. It changes their lives. And that's good. But for me, I'm just thankful for Wim for doing what he did, and I'm happy. And if people say he stole from other cultures, thank you for stealing, because for myself, it made it a huge thing. And his is different. It's not exactly, exactly what the other cultures or other historic lineages of yoga and different groups do. There's a lot of different methods.
criticisms too of his method when compared to the originals. Like some might say that it's a kind of hack or a shortcut into the Kundalini part, and like that's valid criticisms. That's fine.
No, all that criticism can exist.
Yeah,
but
no
I
problem
think the whole
criticism.
cultural appropriation or whatever people say out there, personally, from my perspective, I'm thankful and happy that he did it. And I would tell people, if you just want to start, for me, doing the Wim Hof method, a 10-15-minute exercise.
And you don't even need the app, really.
Yeah, no, just a
You can do
YouTube
the
video.
YouTube video,
Just
it's
a
free.
YouTube video. It's simple and easy. Do it. And if it works and you feel better, maybe it'll lead you down further, or that might be just enough for you. So I would say there, from books, again, something I have to review. But definitely the autobiography for Yogi will give you a journey of what a yogi's life could be. And that book, for all the people that don't know, was one of Steve Jobs' favorite books. He gave that book away when he passed away to people because it was such a life changer. That kind of shows you what someone was able to accomplish their life.
And I think it's like, it's okay and very useful to kind of start on YouTube and like, do different YouTube breathing exercises and whatever, as long as you're using caution. But I really like that you and like now me, like we go back and read where the stuff came from, and it's like, once you start doing that, you realize how far back you actually have to go. And like almost everything really evolves from a very, very small body of work a really long time ago.
Yep. So, yeah, start off with Wim Hof.
Wim Hof, or there's two other breathing things that I think are accessible at an entry point level. One is the Breath of Life by Spirit Science. That one has affirmations built in, and people who watch me probably have heard me say it before. There's these 4 things you say over and over. And when I first started doing the Breath of Life video exercise, it's a breathing exercise, but it's kind of like a meditation. I almost couldn't even get the words out. Like the 4 things are: I love myself, I trust myself, I honor myself, and I value myself. And you say them 3 times. And it's like when I first did it the first time, like my voice was shaking to even say I value myself or I honor myself. Like I trust myself was always very easy. I could say that one big and loud, but it's like you kind of tell your own self what you really feel about yourself whenever you can't even get the words out. I believe in myself, I honor myself, I value myself, I trust myself. And so just doing that exercise the first time, it's like a free YouTube video on Spirit Science. And it's just breathing and saying I love myself, I trust myself, I value myself, whatever. And it's like, I think it just changed the whole way I even think about anything, everything. It changed my whole everything to start doing that meditation routinely. And then another accessible one, I think, is the I'll link it below. I don't know the title of the video, but it's by Sri M, who is a proponent of Kriya Yoga. And it's this certain type of breathing
Hamsa?
exercise. Well, it incorporates humsa, but I think he calls it bumblebee. I mean, the real Sanskrit word is brummery or something like that.
Yeah, Bremery.
Brummery. But I think he calls it bumblebee. And to me, that just makes it more accessible.
We can do a whole video on that.
I'll link it below if y'all are interested now. We'll do a whole video on it.
Yeah.
But those are some of the ways I've been able to kind of a little bit stay calm and just a little bit like not sort of like get the cortisol levels through the roof over every single thing. Now it's like every other thing, you know?
Yep. And I've been doing it a lot more, so I'm able to control my emotions and my thoughts and everything else a lot more. And it's been life-changing. And one final thing I'll say with meditation and breath work is and everything, a lot of times we sit down and it's like, I'm going to do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Start with a minute. Try to really just do it for a minute. Try to do it for 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Don't set these, we're not used to it because the way we grew up, the rat race that we're in, we're not used to sitting there for even a minute and letting our thought process, or I'll talk about myself. I wasn't in a place where I could sit there for even 2-3 minutes and try to calm my brain down. And I think when I used to do it before, try to sit for 10 minutes and just force it. It's not something you want to force. And once you start doing it, you really start enjoying it and you see a life difference and it's phenomenal. So I would just say, take it easy, just try whatever, try some breathing. Everything is about breath. It's about your breath, how you breathe slowly, fast. Start doing box breathing. That'll help. Anything, wherever you can start paying attention to your breath that's the key. The key to life is breath, literally. And in order to make your life better, calm and relaxed and control your emotions, it's about breath. And I could talk about hours on hours for this. So maybe we can break it up into a couple episodes and discuss a couple different things.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. I think people would appreciate that. I think it would also be cool for you to kind of just put it out in words what the journey has been. And something somebody said one time, on one of the videos you were watching one time, it really stuck with me, is like, it's called a meditation practice or a yoga practice for a reason. You don't start off being good at it. You got practice. It's like everything else. You got practice and then you get good at it.
I would definitely agree.
And you practice more than me. But I be doing it. I practice more than when you met me.
Yeah, no. And I practice more than when I met you. I didn't do it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll like incorporate a little like whatever at the end of our videos. Like maybe we can show some of our little stuff, our little things we use or whatever. But it's all just kind of like feelings and intuitions, really, as far as that stuff.
Yep.
But whenever it comes to meditating, yoga, using the breath work and all of that, there are people who are legitimate professionals. And I would always say go to those people as the source. If you can, go directly to them, even better. But yeah, we'll talk more about that as we go along.
Sounds good.
Anything else you wanted to say? To close off the Michael Oher updates, do you have anything else that you wanted to add or?
No, I would say let's wait and see what happens. And even with them, I hope it doesn't get dragged out and where they're destroying each other and it goes on forever.
Yeah,
I just hope it's over sooner than later and, things turn out good because legal fights, all that, it's not good for anyone. Either party, winning party, losing party, it's not good. So that's all I have to say.
Me too. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation.
Bye.
Love you, Monica. Bye.